Hello, I'm Cameron McCredie with Realty Trust Group, and I'm here interviewing my brother, Don McCredie. And he was just awarded from the National Association of Realtors Realtor Emeritus Status Award. So, Don,
Cameron,
tell us about the award. How did you receive this status?
well, it's a pretty stiff criteria. There's very, very few of them around, and I had served in the local and state association in leadership roles, and I've been actively selling real estate for over 40 years. So being a realtor in good standing for that length of time, I was given that award just recently. Very, very proud of that.
So what were some of the leadership positions that you held here in Oregon and locally in the Portland metro area?
Well, I was president of the board of realtors. That's pretty important. I served on the board of directors for many years. I was also named Realtor of the Year for the association, which is a very, very high honor.
Now, was that through PMAR or was that statewide?
PMAR, Portland Metropolitan Association of Realtors. In fact, I led the task force that joined the local boards together into PMAR, and as a result of that, I was awarded the Realtor of the Year.
Wow, it's impressive.
It was a big task.
Now, you were a member of the $1 Million Club when it used to be a big thing.
Well, yeah, me and the $1 Million Club is not like it used to be, but they've kind of upped the ante a little bit, made the criteria a little stiffer, and actually I'm a life member of that now for having been being a top producer for over 25 years. So that was a little easier to get than the Realtor Emeritus.
That's impressive.
Yes. I served as a state director for the Oregon Association of Realtors for many years, and I was also named the district vice president for the Oregon Association of Realtors.
So how does all this apply to the consumer, the home buyer or seller? I mean, what does that mean to them?
Well, sadly in this business, there's a very short life expectancy. I have heard that, in California, the average life expectancy for realtors is 11 months. It's a tough business. Most people are either coming in or going out. So being involved in a leadership capacity, I think that's important to the public because I've been involved in hearings and whatnot to try to self-police ourselves, and then being a top producer for such a long time is equally important, because in this business, I think that experience is critical, especially with such short-lived competition often.
Now, you've expressed to me some of your concerns about the professionalism of the industry. What are your recommendations to try and up the bar, up the ante on that?
We did have this discussion recently about how easy it is to get in the business. I don't really think that's a measure of a person's abilities. Sadly, some of the best producers I've ever met, some of the most responsible realtors, are very poor test takers. I don't think making it difficult to get in is as important as it should be to maintain the status. There are many, many realtors who do not produce much at all. I think if we went to a minimum productivity status, that it would drive a lot of people out that are just not productive, not involved, and do nothing to enhance or improve our abilities as a group.
So what you're saying is a minimum number of sales for the sake of honing your skills and staying in the game as far as experience, and I guess keeping updated with the recent changes in the laws?
I believe that being involved actively, full-time, is critical to better productivity.
Well, let me somehow rephrase that, because there's a difference between testing and education and experience and service, I guess, to consumers. So having a minimum standard or a set number of minimum sales per year is a way to, I guess, keep the experienced agents.
I think that the agents who don't sell are a bit of a risk to the public. They don't keep up with laws, the things that are important, the disclosures. I don't think they have the skill set to do what we do. What we're doing is very complex, and I think only by being involved in it 100% can you stay in the game and on your toes. There are people who are part-timers, and they just do not have the commitment. People are making the biggest investment of their lives, and to deal with somebody who, just because they're a friend of the family
And they have a license.
I think is a mistake. They have a saying that if you don't have a friend in real estate, chances are you don't have any friends at all, and that is a sad truth. We have an awful lot of people, especially when the market gets good, everybody jumps in, and those of us who've been through all kinds of markets are just much better prepared, much better equipped to deal with the intricacies of this profession.
Over the 40 years, are there any significant changes that you recall that have occurred during that time you'd like to share?
Back in the day, we were just pretty much flying by the seat of our pants. We would load people into the car, drive them around till we found something, and then we would write an offer up.
Now this is pre-internet.
Oh my goodness, by far. Our fact sheets were mimeographed. This was almost pre-copy machine. And it was not uncommon for your customers to light up cigarettes inside the house, and because there were ashtrays everywhere. It's just a huge evolution from what we were at the beginning, and now it's much more efficient, much more fluid, because you save an awful lot of gasoline, because you can actually do much of it from a computer, and the houses are much better exposed. Back in those days, we had a lockbox, but pretty much everybody had a key. There was no security, and if you found a house that you wanted your buyers to buy, some agents would actually take the key and put it in their pocket and leave. And so when you open up the box, there's no key there. Nowadays, the boxes, of course, record who's been through, when they've been through, and the keys have to be renewed every day. Security is much, much better.
During that time, there's been a lot of technology that's come and gone, or I guess marketing tools that have come and gone. Can you maybe think back on the days when there was a must-have?
And actually, in those days, people used to do their calculations manually, believe it or not. They'd take the tables that we had on the back of a multiple book and multiply it out on a piece of paper. So we've come an awfully long.
To determine what interest and
what the payments
monthly
were going
payments.
to be. Yes. Of course, back then too, interest rates went up as high as 17%. So it was, maybe it was almost long division in some cases. But nowadays, we have everything we need, including the stuff about schools and whatnot, statistics that really have helped us to qualify the properties and help the consumers.
So I was thinking more tools being sold to agents.
There wasn't really much in the way of tools.
House sign.
No, those have come and gone. Yeah, where you would call a number and it would capture your number, and then we would call them back. We had a time where the newest thing was metal signs, your open house signs and whatnot, and that was the big thing because they'd last forever. But sadly, you put them in your trunk and you turn a corner, they would slide around, and they would actually put pop dents in your car from the inside. We had the flyer box that would actually put the flyer on the inside of the cover so you could see what it is, and it never run out of flyers. But consumers would, bam, elbow the thing and break it, and then take the flyer out of there. So some of these miracle fixes were short-lived.
Did you ever have a pager?
No, only doctors had pagers. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, pagers were expensive, and I did not ever know a realtor who had a pager. We would actually stop at a 7-Eleven. We had our ashtrays full of dimes back then, and we would actually call in for our messages. Yeah, it seems hard to believe, but and there were phone booths, of course, everywhere. Now you don't see them so much, but that's the way we communicated, was to, and everybody had our home numbers and all of our numbers, so they could get a hold of us. Because in a hot market, it was very important that you be accessible. So you had to call in all the time and see if there were any message. They wanted to buy a house from me right then.
What advice do you have to give to a new agent just getting into the business?
Well, the best advice I can give is to get in front of people face to face. Nothing's changed about that. When the computers came out, I think it was Microsoft boasted that they were going to put us out of business. And so the most dangerous thing I think for new agents is to think that they're going to make a lot of money sitting in front of a machine. That just doesn't happen. The person who's sitting who lets the buyer into the house at the time they want to see it and then standing in front of them is the ones who's going to get paid. Being able to be communicative and be in front of the buyers and sellers is just critical. That has not changed. If you spend your time in front of a computer, your career is going to be short-lived.
Wow. So that's so, I guess, counterintuitive for the newer agents getting into the business, because I see an awful lot of them in front of computers.
Well, computers are risk-free. They don't reject you. You don't, and that as being, we are still salesmen, and the computer is the thing that is most dangerous, because they won't reject you, and you don't have to hear no's and what have you, and you don't get that disappointment when somebody's bought a house from somebody else or walked into an open house and purchased it from the agent because the agent told them that the seller was going to be back pretty soon and there were other people who wanted to buy it and they had to buy it from him or her. So I think that the technology has done a lot for us, but if you rely upon it, you're going to get paid. I think it's going to be a problem.
Where do you see real estate going in the next 40 years?
They're still going to want to get inside. Buyers are still going to want to see the house, see the neighborhood. They can see it online, but it's not the same as being there. They've got to experience it. I think that's still going to happen. A good thing for consumers is that I think the fees have gone down because we have a very inexpensive advertising medium. People love the pictures. I don't know that 3D pictures or virtual reality are really going to sell the houses. They may pique the interest of the buyers. In some instances, they actually will eliminate the possibility because they'll see something they don't like. And with advertising, it's important that we not give out too much information. It's there to pique the interest of the buyer, get the buyer to the property. It's not to answer every one of their questions. Sadly, buyers, when they go to buy a house, their purpose is to eliminate everything else. And if you give them too much reason to eliminate it, they will never go look at a house. I've actually met buyers at open houses and what have you, where they say this is the first house we've looked at, and they've been looking for months. So it's kind of a problem because we make it too easy for them to reject a house, and hence they do not purchase it.
So you mentioned salesmanship. It seems to me that the newer agents have more of a belief that they're there to provide information. Can you maybe talk about the salesman versus the order taker?
That is a problem. Again, we've touched on that, where they feel that if they provide enough information, the buyers will have everything they need. Again, buyers would like to experience the property. They have to experience the backyard. They have to experience the neighborhood. And as a salesman, and that's not a popular word, but that's really what we are. We want to actually endorse or pull them into a transaction. You cannot push a buyer into a transaction. You'll get that call the next day or the day after that says, well, we feel like we were pressured. We are there to confirm their decision. We will tell them the positives. Whenever I'm at a house with a seller, I want the seller to tell me what about the neighborhood they like, what they would recommend, what I should share with the buyers. And this is important because if I see that gleam in their eyes, and I can very much tell when a buyer is interested, and I know when to close on a buyer and just make it easy. And to close, you don't push, you just knock down the barriers and you make it easy for them to buy. That's our job, is to make it easy and take away the anxiety, the fear, and to make them feel good about the process. And then after that, things seem to fall into place. Selling real estate has got to be a win-win. It's not like a legal suit where one party wins and one party loses, and somebody makes a decision, you win, you lose. And this, both parties have got to feel that they're getting the deal that they want. And our job is to bring them to that point where they can agree to agree.
You had told me about not getting into a buyer's or seller's way as being kind of rule number one.
I think it's important to see when the buyers, to know when the buyers are interested. I had an open house one time where there were lots and lots of people, and you've got these people wandering through the house. And this one couple, I just had noticed that they'd stayed there a long time. And they're out in the backyard. I thought, you know what? They wouldn't be here this long if they weren't truly interested. And I went out, and they were. They were just talking it over, and they were trying to pros and cons. And I sold them the house because I could just tell that these were the people that really wanted it. And some people, some agents, I don't know. I mean, I've accused some agents on occasion of just having one set of buyers, and once they sell those buyers a house, they'll have nothing else to do. And I think that's true, because the agents go out of their way they over-advocate. They go out of their way to find reasons not to buy the house.
Treating the house like it's their own.
Effectively trying to deter the process, throw it off track. Sellers can be the same way. They want to overprice their house. Sadly, when you get ready to sell your house, everybody's an expert. All the friends, relatives, the neighbors across the street. I've listed houses where the neighbors have come over and told me that it was listed too low. This being the fact that the neighbors were thinking about selling their house, and they wanted the people across the street to sell for more and to do the heavy lifting. This is a big mistake. Well-meaning relatives from other parts of the nation where prices are much higher will convince the buyers that the sellers that the price is too low. This is a huge mistake. Yeah. And sometimes the houses have been on the market for 2 or 3 weeks, and they're thinking about raising the price. It's kind of, what kind of philosophy is that? It's as though they're mad at the market for not buying their house. We go through a lot of challenges. I think we go through more challenges with sellers than we do with buyers often.
In this market?
In any market. They're just more persnickety. They're more open to all sorts of poor information. It just makes it difficult, and it doesn't help them at all.
So you've been in business longer than most agents have been born. So when is it time for you to move on? Why haven't you found something else to do?
I just love this business. I have no plans to retire. I can't imagine doing anything else. I like the customers I deal with. I like the challenges of the negotiations. I'm very good at it. I think that this is a marvelous way to spend my time. I can't take time off very well. I run out of things to do. I'm self-employed. I get to drive around, set my own hours, meet a lot of wonderful people, see a lot of properties, and do whatever I like. I'm not suited for anything else, and I cannot imagine retiring. This keeps me young.
So speaking of young, as a kid growing up, our mom was a realtor. At what point did you decide that you wanted to follow suit?
After I graduated from college, you remember our father, a good Scot, made us pay our own way to college.
Yeah.
After I graduated from Oregon State University, I went to work downtown for a man named Bill Nato, a prominent developer, and I kind of got the real estate bug there. Plus, we worked in an old office building on the river, and it was cold in the winter and hot in the summer, and you sat at a desk all day long, and I just couldn't wait to get outdoors, and I just decided that sitting in an office was not for me. So at that point, I talked to Mom, and I remember one time she made $1,000 a month. I thought, oh my goodness, who makes that kind of money? That was a while ago, but I got into real estate then. And during the school, I actually met this beautiful young gal at the classes who became my wife. That was like the best closing I ever had. We've been together for 38 years, and it's been just a wonderful experience, and I wouldn't ever want to go do something else.
There's a growing trend in practicing real estate, which involves developing teams. And each team member is tasked to handle a certain aspect of a transaction. You've had a team before. I mean, you've tried that. Why are you solo now?
I had a first team before teams were really popular. This was back in the 80s. And I found it to be a bit of a burden because it's more mouths to feed. It's like you've got a responsibility to people. And when times were good, it was nice having the support. When times were bad, I felt not good about having to let people go, and I just don't know that I want that responsibility again. Frankly, most teams seem to be involved in prospecting. They're not really there necessarily to help the seller or the buyers. I've met some folks that do a good job at that, but nowadays it seems like all they're trying to do is drum up new business. And I think that I know how I feel about when I call up and try to speak to the lead sled dog, whatever you want to call it, and I get pawned off on somebody else, and I never get to speak to the person I want to talk to. Now, when people call me, I like to know what's going on. I like to have their answers in front of me, and the only way I can do that is to keep abreast of the transaction. I can do that by handling the transaction myself. I don't mind the paperwork. I work with some institutions, some banks and trusts and what have you, and they're kind of they're in tune with paperwork. I kind of enjoy that part of it, the technical details. It keeps me sharp, and I don't want to be talking to somebody else who has to check with somebody else before they can get back to me. I'm one of the few realtors who actually answers his phone. These days, you get message services, you get these intermediaries, or they don't answer the phone at all. They'll answer their phone calls at 4 in the afternoon or 9 in the morning. I pick up my phone because I think it's important that people get to talk to the person they want to, and they get their answers right away.
So it sounds to me like you're a solo agent because you like to handle things from the beginning to the end. Is this because of, I guess, better service for the client?
I think it is better service for the client. I really do. And talking on the phone is very important. Inflections in people's voices to expand on certain questions they might have. I think it's just wrong to rely on technology. Texting to me is an annoyance. I like it because it's instantaneous, but also to try to text out a message when you should be talking to somebody is a problem. I will actually text, and that seems to be very popular now with other brokers, especially the younger brokers. Of course, they're all younger now, but they very much rely on texting, and I will actually text them back the message, call me, and that's the last I hear of them. I don't think they know how to work a telephone, or they're very not comfortable speaking with people. And that's a mistake, because communication is a lot more than just the written word.
So have you had a transaction where it's been done through email and text, but not through phone conversation?
Back in the old day, you actually would meet the other broker at the seller's house, and you would present the offer. You would get a chance to represent your buyers face to face with the sellers, and the other broker was there to watch with their interests. Those days, you got to meet the other brokers, and you got to meet the sellers. Nowadays, none of that happens. I'll have transactions with brokers more than once, and I'll have never met them, shook their hands. I think that's kind of a sad note. It was nice to kind of, and you do a better job when you get to be face to face to the seller, because you can find out what's important to them. You can take it back to the buyers, and at the same time, I would ask the sellers what they thought was special about the house. And a lot of sellers, it's not just dollars and cents. They want people to know what kind of buyers they have.
So if you hadn't gotten into real estate, what would it have been?
Boy, I just can't imagine. Once a person's been in real estate for a while, and once they've gotten imbued with this business, they're not really good for anything else. You know, they just can't sit in an office, and it's difficult to be under someone's thumb.
Unemployable.
Pretty much. I can't imagine being in a situation where I don't like going to work in the morning and I can't wait for the weekend. And I see people like that. And I look at one of the luxuries we have is we could come and go and try to avoid some of the, the traffic and what have you. I see the people on the freeways at rush hour just crawling along. That's a special kind of hell. I don't know. I don't think I could do that.
So I've been in the business for 7 years now, licensed. What advice do you have for me to make it to 40?
I don't know if I'd want to wish that on you, but I would just say be in the moment, just enjoy what you do and just do the best you can for the people that you're around and let the stuff roll off your back. I mean, it can be kind of tense sometimes, it can get kind of stressful. You have to find a release for that, and you just have to let your customers know that you care. And things go wrong in transactions. If things didn't go wrong in transactions, they would have no need of us. That's what our job is. And when people tell me, gosh, you got paid all this money, you didn't have to do anything, it was too easy. And my response is, I could have made it hard. If you felt you would have got a better deal for that, we could have done that. But my job is to make it as easy as possible so there's no bumps in the road. But when we run into them, you want to find somebody who's been there before and knows exactly what to do. I bring that to the table because there's not too much I haven't seen. There's not too much I haven't had to deal with. And I don't like surprises, and I can see things coming before they even get here.
Why did you join Realty Trust of all companies?
With the turnover in the business, if you join XYZ Realty, the training programs, most of them is basically here's the multiple book, multiple service, go get them. I think that's just sad. There's such a turnover in this business that it's sad to be in an office where people are coming and going. There's a revolving door, and there's a lot of panic. There's a lot of anxiety. Let's face it, if you're not making any money, tough for you. And this business costs quite a bit of money to be in, more so than people think. I pretty much could work it anywhere I want. I've chose Realty Trust because we don't have that environment. We're the best there is, in my opinion. I could work anywhere I want, and this is what I choose because the people are top-notch. It's the quality of the facilities, quality of the people, and the support staff is top-notch. And I don't want to spend my time trying to figure out how to fix a copy machine or fix the internet. I want somebody else to do that for me who knows what they're doing. And here, these people are for real. It gets done, and we support each other, and it's fun to come to work here, and these are the best people there are.
Yeah, I remember the old firm I was at, walking by a desk and seeing the network cable just hanging there, and I'm thinking, who used to be there?
You can't remember their names. They come through.
You don't want to learn their names until they've been there for a few months.
Well, that happens in this business, sadly. And then some people are so intent upon capturing as much as they can, and people sometimes the buying public doesn't know that. Selling public doesn't know that we share these commissions. We share them with the other brokers that we co-op with. We share them with the association that we're in. It gets spread around. So they think that you make this big money. Well, it's not as big as you might think. But the question is, would you rather make less of a lot of deals or all of one deal? And the people that I see that go off on their own, basically trying to capture all the money, and there's very little support. I would be nervous about doing that. I think I want to deal with pay a fair commission and get as much as you can for the money.
I've seen more and more listings where the BAC, the buyer's agent commission, is significantly lower than the traditional amount. That just doesn't seem to be fair for the client.
Well, the client should be wondering how much of the money he's paying, whatever it is. We don't have any set fees. We have to make that point very clear. They should wonder about how much of the money is passing through to the other brokers. It's incentive for the other brokers to sell their houses. If there are people who contend that they charge less, but basically they're just cutting it out of the next guy's pocket. Ironically, that means that they likely will sell it themselves because other brokers will stay away from the house. This is not. In writing, this is not the way it's supposed to be, but this is just practical reality is that if a person has two jobs to do, they'll take the job where they get paid the most. And so this is one of the sad things that sellers don't realize takes place in the marketplace.
Well, this has been one of the most intelligent conversations I've had with you in a long time. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Cameron. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank
too.
you.
40 years.
Yeah.